definitely let me know, pop them in the chat. I'm watching Facebook chat, and if you're on the Zoom, feel free to pop those on the Zoom chat as well. I'm trying to watch both. So if y'all have questions, again, marketing. So we were talking a little bit before Sherry hopped off about, for me, it was Facebook marketing. That's kind of how I've stayed consistent in everything. But I think the biggest thing to remember, because somebody, and I say somebody, several people always ask, like, how and struggle in this area as well, but like, how do you stay motivated? Because I just don't feel like showing up for my business today, or like, I'm just not feeling motivated. And I'm sure everybody feels that way at some point in time. It's just like, do I really want to do this? Do I really want to post on Facebook or whatever the case is? But I think like one thing that I've definitely learned throughout the last couple of years doing my business is like it's not that you're not always going to be motivated. You have to remember, one, what your why is, and you have to be very disciplined with what you're doing. So making whatever your marketing tasks are going to be, like, hey, this is what I need to do today, and making sure you show up no matter what. So marketing is usually one of those things that I try to make sure, especially in the beginning of my business, that I was doing first thing in the morning, because I was working full time. I had a 4-hour commute every day, all the things. So I was trying to grow a business while doing those things. So I would make sure as soon as I woke up in the morning that I was posting something on Facebook, or I was sending friend requests and stuff like that. But then when I had a lunch break, when I got off work, like all the things, that way my business was actively, and it doesn't have to be Facebook, but you want to keep that momentum going. So whatever that looks like for you, like for Sherry, that was Upwork. Some people are doing in-person networking groups, whatever that looks like for you. And you need to figure out what that looks like for you, what feels good to you, what do you want to show up doing, and all those things. Because if not, you're not going to consistently show up. If you absolutely hate doing it and you're like dreading posting on Facebook or going to that in-person networking group, it's not going to last long. You're not going to be disciplined with it. You're not going to stay consistent. And doing those things is what's going to help get you motivated again, keep you going, pushing your business forward, because it's not always a good day every single day. And I just want to grow my business and do all the things. But if you have your goals set, if you know what your why is, if in all these things, you have to do this marketing to get your business to that level to be able to accomplish those things. So, I mean, like one thing for me, especially, there's times where it's like, what's going on? Why is my business not growing? Or I haven't got any clients this month, or whatever. I haven't got any potential to reach out. And you kind of take a step back and kind of evaluate, like, okay, what have I done differently? Because sometimes it's like, okay, I'm still posting on Facebook. I'm still doing like all these things. Like, what is going on? I sit back and realize those things. Yes, my posts on Facebook are still going, yeah, and all the things, but maybe I'm not interacting with the people. I've stopped doing my morning routine. Morning routine has been something that's been super huge for me, from the beginning of my business to growing my business. So writing down your goals, focusing on whatever those goals are. What is your why? Listening to, whether it's YouTube videos, podcast, audiobooks, or reading a book, whatever the case is. For me, it's been like something audio, because I can do it either like now while I'm getting ready in the morning, while I'm in the car, or whatever the case is. You can do that while you're doing those things. So, but listening to that to kind of get your day started, to kind of get you in that right frame of mind and that mindset, reminding yourself of what your goals are, what your why is. It gives you that extra push, because yes, my posts might be there on Facebook, but they weren't as great as they were when I was super motivated, and when I was focusing on my goals, focusing on my why, or I wasn't showing up as much, or I wasn't interacting with other people and things along those lines. Because social media is social. You've got to build the relationships. The relationships are that you're building with people. We always say this: we are working with people's finances. We're looking at their money with their businesses. So you need that know, like, and trust factor. So that's how it's so important with building this type of business, to make sure that you're forming those relationships as you're doing it. So sometimes it feels like I'm talking to all these people and I'm not getting anything, I'm not gaining any traction and all the things. But I mean, I'm 4.5 years into my business. June will be 5 years. And I can tell you, like, consistently showing up now, like, okay, January, first week of January, I had 4 discovery calls the first week of January. And I mean, we had a holiday on the Monday. Not everybody's back in full force, everything, but because I've been showing up consistently. Some of these were not even people that I'm friends with on Facebook, but other people seeing my posts and stuff. So consistently showing up, it pays off. You start to see the people coming in and everything. So sometimes it does take a little while to build that momentum, but you can't give up. You have to keep it going, keep focusing on your business, keep focusing, figuring out what your why is. One thing that I've realized, if you listen to any millionaires who's wrote a book, does audio podcasts, any of those things, they're going to tell you, like, figure out what your why is. One thing that I've seen working with so many different bookkeepers throughout the last couple of years is you have to make sure that your why, like, you dig really deep, that it makes you emotional, because that's what it was for me. It was something that, like, it was a non-negotiable, like, I have to make this happen, or, like, I've already missed out on 11 years of my daughter's life. I'm not doing that anymore. I want to be there. I have to be there. So I got to make this work, because I knew this was going to be the outlet for that income to make that happen. And just like Sherry was telling the story about one of the coaches earlier, same thing with her. She wants to be there at kids' school activities. So no, she might not enjoy the bookkeeping, but she knows, like, hey, this is what's going to make that happen. So you have to figure out what is that why. And one thing, like, you'll always hear is they're like, dig deeper. It's got to make you emotional. So what is that? What does that look like for you? Because a lot of times it's like, oh, I just want to pay off debt. Okay, who cares? And I say that very loosely. What would that look like for you and your family if you paid off that debt? What kind of lifestyle does that mean y'all get to live now? Or what kind of doors does that open for you at that point? So don't be so broad, I guess, when you're saying, like, hey, this is my why, this is what I want to do. Okay, Nicole said she had to get emotional as well. It definitely, in order to continue, you definitely do. Because I'm going to tell you, and you'll hear, I get messages all the time, like, asking about starting a bookkeeping business and stuff. And there's all these programs who are like, oh, you can get 6-figure businesses or $1 million business in no time. It's so easy, blah, blah, all these things. And okay, yeah, that's great. Yeah, I have a 6-figure bookkeeping business. You can do it. It's possible. But they don't tell you all the other stuff that comes along with it. And of course, I mean, I get it, because you're trying to sell, like, hey, this is what we want to do. We want to sell you a course or whatever they're trying to sell at that time. But being a business owner is not easy. Being a business owner is tough. There's going to be good days. There's going to be bad days. You're going to lose clients. You're going to get told no. You're going to have a month where there's no discovery calls. I didn't have any in a couple of months until January came along. So whatever your why is has got to be that strong, emotional, whatever, that's going to push you forward to keep doing all the things. Because I can tell you, especially in the beginning of my business, like I said, 4-hour commute every day. So 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evening, I'm in the car, up at 4 o'clock, 4:30 every morning. We weren't getting home until 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock some nights, because my daughter was practicing and all the things. So yeah, super late nights. I had to work on Saturdays a lot of times. So if y'all don't know me, I have a ton of health issues. So, and I was going through a lot at that time. I'm trying to get all of that under control. So there's plenty of times where my alarm would go off at 4 o'clock in the morning because I set it early because I want to do the Facebook post or whatever the case is. And I'm just like, I don't want to do it. I don't feel like doing it. Or you get home and you're like, I'm just exhausted. I don't even feel like looking at anything. And I literally, so I would have to remind myself constantly. One, the audiobooks, because I'm constantly listening to these people with their success stories, mindset, motivation, just all the things that, because I would listen to that on my way to work, listen to that on my way home from work. But and then reminding myself, okay, if I want to be here for my daughter, if I want to be at these activities and stop missing out, I've got to make this work. So that's why I say it's got to be something that's super strong, super makes you emotional, because it's got to be able to push you past whatever comes up, whatever challenges you face as you're starting to grow your business, being a business owner, any fears that come up. Because guess what? My very first potential client, they ended up signing as a client, but my very first this was pre-COVID, wanted to meet in person because virtual, they didn't feel like they wanted that personal connection. Meet in person. I was literally in the parking lot about to throw up because I was like, there's no way I can walk in here and do this because I have no idea what I'm talking about. I don't know what I'm going to tell this lady. I don't know how I'm going to answer her questions. But I reminded myself, if I'm going to make this work, then I got to do this first meeting. I gotta do this. And I walked in and it ended up being a great conversation and she ended up signing on as a client. But if I wouldn't have reminded myself of what my why was, or if my why wouldn't have been strong enough, it wouldn't have mattered. Like I would have chickened out and never walked in for that meeting and continued to grow my business and we wouldn't be here today. So that's why it's so important. And some people tell me all the time, like, you say that a lot, like you got to figure out what your why is and whatever. Yeah, I do, because that's how important it was for me. And that's what got me to where I am in my business, and constantly pushing and all the things. So, yes, definitely. So Nicole also said, she feels like her why has fluctuated. It will. Your why, your goals, all the things can change. And it could be depending on circumstances. Maybe your kids are older now, or maybe you've accomplished the paying off the debt if that was a goal. You just have to figure out and know that, and know that it's okay for it to change, and know that, like, hey, maybe I need to reevaluate this. That's definitely something that I try to do every year, at the beginning of the year. And we actually have a goals workshop that's going to be coming up next week. On Friday, we haven't got all the information together for y'all if y'all are interested in doing it. But every year, sit back and think about, like, hey, what are my goals? What is my why? Why am I working on this business? And those things. And sometimes it's middle of the year, I need to remind myself what my why is, because now I've taken on too many clients and I'm still not spending enough time, or whatever the case is. I'm just giving y'all some examples. But it's okay for those things to change, on sit back, reevaluate it, think about it. But you really want to think about, like, hey, like, what is this going to look like for me? What do you want this to look like? Why do you want this? And that's going to be so, like, super important as you're growing your business. Okay. I'll stop recording. And then if y'all have any questions,